Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk the 7 deadly sins. A side story came out this week, and that side story is pretty much blowing the door open on Gowther and who he is. And now with this side story, we can make some pretty good assumptions on what actually happened when it came to Gowther. So let's just remember, we're going to go through this. I'm going to talk about the chapter that this was all coming out on. It's 45 pages, so this is going to be more of talking about the mechanics of what happened with Gowther and then the rest of the events. So really strong start to that chapter. We had gotten the information from Frodrin that Gowther was a 10 commandment and that his commandment ultimately took his memories away from him. But then as we see in this chapter, that might not be entirely true. Now we know that when it came back to the original Gowther, that he was the one who originally got the commandment, and then he had Gowther the doll go out into the world to see the world. And we know that Gowther's existence was a secret. Marisol didn't know about it, so it's good. We can assume that Frodrin didn't know about it. So at this point, when we're looking at what Frodrin initially said about Gowther, most likely that was false. That was really faulty information. Most likely Frodrin wasn't aware of what actually happened, because throughout this whole chapter, Gowther is feeling, and that's pretty crazy, right? Gowther's whole thing in the current storyline has been he wants to know what feelings feel like. He wants to know what's going on. And as we see in this chapter, not only do we find out why he got his sin of lust, but we also find out specifically what ended up happening to make him not feel, pretty much. So after going through the chapter, here's what I pretty much think is going on, right? We have regular Gowther, or original Gowther. He dies 300 years prior. Then he does that thing where he gives that magic heart to Gowther. When Gowther has that magic heart, he can feel, he can do things. And as we see in this chapter, he is legitimately feeling. He is crying everywhere. He is scared. He is happy. He knows what happiness is with Nadja. And ultimately, you know, it's really hard to say that this is just fake feelings. Like, no, this is Gowther like actually feeling the world. And ultimately, his final act with Nadja, you could say, is the culmination of all his feelings coming out. And ultimately, that was a pretty sad scene, but we'll talk about that later. And anyway, now to like justify what happened, the jump between now and I guess then and now, it's what happened to Gowther. Well, we see it in this chapter, right? He pulls out his heart, so he tries to, what I assume, put it inside Nadja because he figured out that it didn't work. And then at the end, he's saying that he ultimately wants to, I guess, forget everything and just legitimately being a doll. To quote his words, if having a heart hurts this much, then I don't need one. I don't want to remember anything ever again. He just wants to be a doll. So in that sequence, he is pretty much giving up both his emotions and his memories. So we know that Gowther has invasion. Is it really that much to say that Gowther could have just gone and done invasion on himself and completely deleted all the memories of his emotions, all the memories of this horrible time for him? And then since he doesn't have his magical heart in his chest anymore, if the feelings just ultimately died. So with that, you end up having a Gowther who after this is still alive. It is a doll, and he doesn't feel, nor does he remember the time when he did feel. But then how does the power interaction work when we go back to Frodrin and what Frodrin said? Frodrin said that the commandment would go back to Gowther eventually, but again, Frodrin wasn't aware of the fact that there was another Gowther. But we also saw that Gowther is cognizant of the fact that he is a 10 commandment when we last saw him. So what's going on there? Well, it's possible, maybe, that the memories of the 10 commandment because like the 10 commandment, like we were premised that the commandment would return to Gowther and would give back his memories. So maybe because the commandment took away the memories, it pretty much stored the memories somewhere else. And the one that they took the memories away from wasn't this Gowther, it was original Gowther. And we have the evidence for that because this Gowther, doll Gowther, is fully aware of what actually happened back in the war. He's fully aware of the Fairy King Forest. So automatically that's telling us he didn't lose the memory. So most likely the commandment struck the original Gowther. So the memories that doll Gowther probably got were the memories of original Gowther, which by extension are the memories of doll Gowther. So what does that ultimately mean for Gowther? Well, I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes out. It would be wise to say that it probably the memories that the commandment struck out probably don't consist of the memories that Dol Gowther created with Nadja, but they probably consist of memories of the creation of the magic heart and why original Gowther made the magic heart and what was his dream in general. So we might get to see some closure there. Now we know that the magic heart is still in play because it's in that dark place in the last panel. So hopefully Dol Gowther will be able to get back his gift, right? Like the magic heart, because I think that magic heart is pretty much everything that Dol Gowther wants currently. Anyway, this was an excellent origin story on Gowther and why he got the sin he got. And let's just talk about that. Him getting the goat's sin of lust. The imagery of him over this girl's body naked and like covered in blood, most likely having just ripped a hole in her chest to put that the heart inside there. Yeah, that was pretty powerful imagery, man. Like that's pretty strong. But now we know how he got the sin, and we know that to some degree he wasn't really responsible for what happened to the girl. Now in terms of surprises, there's quite a bit of surprises in this chapter. First off, Leonis is on top of the Fairy King forest. That's crazy, right? But that makes sense. Now the fact that there's a horn in the cellar, that totally makes sense. So it means the Fairy King forest moves, and I think we kind of already knew that. We knew that the Fairy King forest can be destroyed and it can be replanted and it can bloom again. So we've seen that happen before. But just finding out that, wow, this is the site of the holy battle, this is where everything went down. Pretty interesting stuff. Seeing original Gowther dead and our current Gowther crying over him, well, we know that's a foregone conclusion. We now know where original Gowther is going to end up in the in the flashback. So most likely original Gowther got out of there because he just was tired of it all and he just wanted to be free. So he got struck by his own commandment and died. So yeah, pretty cool. We got the story of his plight, that he was just a prisoner all his life and he just wanted to see the outside world. So, you know, unfortunate, but they did justice to the character. I really enjoyed that sequence. And then let's talk, I guess, the relationship that formed between Nadja and Gowther, and also the relationship that he ultimately has with Barta. That was pretty interesting. I never would have thought that those two characters were linked to such a degree. Because clearly with Barta, you're looking at him and you can clearly see that he knows what's going to happen. He knows that his sister's going to die, and he ultimately knows that Gowther is a good guy. But he doesn't really have the power to do much about it at that present point in time. He ultimately prioritized his sister being happy. So with that, you know, I really respect the character, and now I'm really happy that he did give Gowther a second chance and ultimately did have him put into the 7 deadly sins. And his relationship with Nadja, of course, was very adorable. You know, it's cool to see a character who chased after love so much actually getting it and actually knowing what it's like to be happy and to care about someone. So overall, that relationship was very nice, and she was a very nice character as well. And then ultimately Denzel as well, acknowledging that, or finding out that he knew Gowther to this degree. And it was very interesting that he looks a lot like the kid that's in the current 7 stars. That might be his kid. Like, that's really odd. That's a really odd similarity between those two characters when you look at the art for young Denzel. But when Barta does tell him, like, no, you know, Gowther's a good guy, he wouldn't have done this. You know, that is the confirmation that Barta knew what was going to go down. And he just, because he doesn't really understand the power, and because we know at this point in time, we know that it's true, but he might not be aware that those visions are like 100% accurate. You know, we go into this situation, it's like the poor kid can't do much to save Gowther, but at the very least Gowther's immortal, so he can redeem himself some other time, or he can do better by Gowther in a later date. So ultimately the message here is that Gowther threw away a gift because he felt too much and he just didn't want to do it, and he tried to save someone he cared about, and then it goes full circle where now he wants to go back to that place of feeling, and most likely he's unstable without that heart. And with what Barta is saying at the end, he's saying that Gowther, don't forget that my sister was smiling at the end. You know, that's ultimately going to be the message for Gowther's story. It's going to be about remembering. It's going to be about coming back and realizing that everything, you know, like it wasn't as bad as it seemed, and that people can move forward despite it. So I really hope that Barta is holding on to that magic heart. I hope that magic heart is somewhere in Leonis and Barta can give it back to Gowther, because, you know, that now we know that's an integral part of Gowther's character, and I think that the author would answer that. He would answer original Gowther's plea and have Gowther go back to accomplishing original Gowther's general dream. But anyway, this was an excellent side story. Really enjoyed it. I really appreciate that the author went this far for it. It would have been better if we got like a chapter along with this side story, but man, like this is already a lot. I'm really excited to see where the Gowther storyline goes now, but overall, pretty awesome side story. I'm really happy. So guys, let me know what you thought down below. Let me know what you think is going on with Gowther. Let me know what you think is going to happen to original Gowther in the next chapter. I think he's just going to self-destruct, but whatever. Guys, let me know down below, and until next time, I hope you have a very, very great day.